What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video and back with another Trooper format video, the format held in August of 2007 at the SJC Indianapolis of that year. It's a very fun format, very explosive format, very similar to Demise format, which was the last format that I covered. And in that format, I covered a Diamond Dude Turbo deck because you had triple Magical Stone Excavation. One of the only differences really between Demise and Trooper format is that this card's now limited to one copy. So because it's limited to one copy, you might expect that this deck is a bit worse than it is in Demise format, and that is indeed true. But I am happy to report that a new sort of innovation with this deck was discovered in Trooper format that I think is interesting enough to still cover this deck for this format. And that innovation is pairing Magical Explosion with it. On paper, this actually makes a lot of sense because if you're milling a bunch of spells to grave with things like Monster Gate and Reasoning, that gets a lot of spells in grave for Magical Explosion. And while this is a trap, so it doesn't really super pair well with the most of your deck, you can put it back on top with Feather the Phoenix and do things like that. So it's a very, very interesting idea from the Duelist Clody that they actually used to win a locals in Trooper format on the YGO from Zero Discord servers. If you want to join into your locals, head on over there. And also, if you want to play Trooper format games in general, then head over there as well. So I decided just to, take their deck list exactly and just play it in some games. Now, I do have some disagreement with how this deck list is structured. My main disagreement is that they are playing the FTK in the main deck instead of the side deck. So this deck does have a smokescreen side here. You side into a more typical sort of DDT deck here. And I'm fine with that smokescreen. The issue that I take with this is that generally you want to side into an FTK if you know you're going first. Because, if you've got a more flexible option for game one, then if you go first or second, then you're in a pretty good spot. Whereas, if you just load in with the FTK and you're going second, you can be in a really bad spot. And I don't really think this FTK is consistent enough as well to, have it be the main strategy in game one. Honestly, I do test out the FTK over the course of this video, which I will talk about and show. But honestly, I feel like it could be adjusted to be a bit more consistent for going first. And the sort of side deck can be tailor-made to have a more smokescreen side that is a bit more efficient, I think. But Clody is an FTK player in a lot of these formats, so, who am I to doubt their judgment here? I just think that, with more experimentation, more can be done with this deck in the future. But let's just go through the card by card real quick. Now, again, this was Clody's deck list, so I don't have all the information on all the cards included here, but I think in general, it's relatively straightforward. So we got triple card trooper along with triple machine duplication. You can do the Troop Dupe Scoop stuff, but the main reason card troopers in here is to mill a bunch of cards to grave, which is very, very good for all different parts of your deck. We got a DMOC here, very good in Reason Gate decks. We got double Diamond Dude here to be the Diamond Dude part of DDT. This can get spells in grave. You can also set up spells for next turn if you don't kill on the first turn. And very often, this deck does not win on the first turn. We actually saw Clody through that locals not win on the first turn quite a bit. But the deck was still able to, carry it all the way to the finish line in the end. So Diamond Dudes are pretty good here. We got a Stratos here to search out our Diamond Dudes mainly, just to deck thin a little bit more. And potentially pop spell traps. Doesn't come up that often, but, it can happen. And to search out these Stratos and some of the Diamond Dudes, we've got triple Emergency Call and double Rhoda here. I think triple E-Call might be a bit much with only one Stratos, but if this is an FTK deck, it kind of just wants to go first. And, you want the E-Calls for more consistency here. You can always pitch it for something like a Feather of the Phoenix or Magical Stone Activation, and it is another spell to mail off your Reason Gate shenanigans. For the spells, we got a lot of them. Feather of the Phoenix times 3. This is to stack our Magical Explosions on top of the deck and get that wincon off. We get triple Brain Control to pair with the Monster Gate, and this is sort of what I meant by the fact that, this main deck is not quite tailor-made for the FTK, even though it is the FTK going first, because this is a going second card. If you go first, your opponent will not have cards on the field to take control of Brain Control. So if you're trying to maximize your chances of FTKing here, BrainCon seems like a bit of a strange inclusion here, but it is very good in the deck in general, so I do think it's, should be in the 55 here, maybe as just a substitute for some other cards in the smokescreen, but I'm not really sure how I feel about it being in the sort of FTK part of the deck. We get card destruction here to dig deeper into the deck and get spelled in grave. We've got triple Destiny draw here to pitch our hero, or Diamond Dude specifically, and draw 2 cards. This is the best used with Stratos, so the best case scenario is you go Stratos, search out Diamond Dude and then you draw it away. You also have the Rhoda to pair with that as well if you want to do that instead. We got a triple E-Call and triple dupe, as I mentioned before. We get the magical stone excavation. This is very, very good if you've got a bunch of spells engraved and you got excess cards in hand. We got triple monster gate here and triple reasoning for our reasoning gate package. We got a pre-mat here if they call correctly on reasoning, or if we just have another good card in the grave to bring back with this, it can be very good for us. We got double Rhoda, as I mentioned, search out the Stratos, and occasionally a Diamond Dude. We got double Serious Spells. Might seem like a weird inclusion, but it actually can work out very well. If you activate Monster Gate, then activate Serious Spell, pitching the rest of your hand, then you can mill a ton of cards and potentially make it more likely to hit DMOC. Now, the downside of that, though, is that your DMOC and your Stratos will miss timing if they're summoned first off of Monster Gate rather than second. So that is a downside to the card. It is good to know about here. But I think it is potentially still worth playing in the deck despite that. We've got a Snatch Skill as well to take control of our opponent's stuff. Again, kind of like BrainCon. Kind of a, iffy inclusion if you're trying to max out on the FTK part of the deck. But for the 55, it does make sense. We got a Call here as well. And same sort of deal with BrainCon and Snatch. But these 5 are like really the only major cards here that I think for the FTK version itself don't really make sense. And, they do give the deck a little bit more flexibility if you are forced to go second instead of going first. But that's also part of why I think the FTK part should be in the side deck coming in rather than the main deck coming out. But that's just my opinion on the deck. We got Triple Magical Explosion here. This is the win con of the deck when you're going first and trying FTK. And also, like, even if you're, trying to play the game out, it can just be good to have a bit of an extra burst of damage there in the end. For the side deck, we've got a Smokescreen side, so we got Dasher along with Triple Mally to be a bit of a broader hero engine there. We've got a Jinzo here to shut off our opponent's traps. We got a Mechanical Hound to shut off their spells, and also, if you have no cards in hand, it pairs with that well, which you will have. I'll have Explosion and Serious Spell. That's kind of a neat synergy there, although I'm not really sure if this is worth playing in the DDT deck, so like, if we're talking about things to take out of this sort of main deck and put in the side as Smokescreen, I think that this could probably be replaced by some of the other cards, and potentially even things like Dimension Fusion and Double Phoenix Blade, which, while they are good in things like Airblade, and you can potentially play this as an Airblade style deck, I think they might be, not really the most worth it in this version of the deck for Trooper format specifically. We got a Heavy Storm to blow up our opponent's back row along with an MST. We got Double Lightning Vortex to clear their boards. We got a Mirror Force and a Ring to deal with their aggressive pressure, and Ring also can deal a bit of burn damage in the end. Fusion deck doesn't really matter here, so I just filled it up with random heroes. But that's going to do it for the deck breakdown. Let's dive into some games and see how this deck actually plays. Our first game is up against Ratos, a freaking get some channel. Always a pleasure to have them on. We're going into rock, paper, scissors. We could really want to win this one, and unfortunately, we do lose the rock, paper, scissors there. So, kind of rough for that. But, given the hand that we have, I don't really think we could really FTK here. This is a very unfortunate hand for us. We don't have any other targets in our deck for E-Call besides Stratos, so that makes it a bit awkward. And also, Rhoda only has 2 targets left, one of which we can search out with Stratos. So, it's a bit iffy for us here. Our opponent's going to go for a D-draw, pitch that Mally, draw 2, so it's a very, very good start for them. And they're going to activate a Rhoda here to go for Stratos to search out a Disc Commander. So they're off to a pretty smashing start, along with another D-draw to pitch that Disc Commander, draw 2 more, and set 1 pass back to us. So we're in a bit of a tough spot, but we do have Magical Explosion, so if we get enough spells engraved, we can potentially close this out. Although, we need a lot of spells engraved. Actually, I don't think we have enough decks, or cards in the deck, that is, to make this lethal. But it can deal a lot of damage, and depending on what we hit off reasoning, potentially we can get in for even more damage, so maybe we can make something happen here. But we're going to start by going for Stratos here to grab the Diamond Dude. And you might be wondering why we're doing this before we're reasoning, right? Because if we activate reasoning, they call 4, expecting maybe Stratos, then we could potentially throw them off a bit. The reason I do this is because I want to actually get value off the Stratos and the Rhoda, and if I, hit a Diamond Dude off this, then, like, we don't really get value off of one of these cards. So that is my sort of reasoning behind doing this. You could also potentially, have waited and potentially hit a Diamond Dude if you wanted that, or potentially giving your opponent a bit more weird options here. But I do think this is ultimately a pretty good choice for us to do here. Also gets more spells engraved with the reasoning. So they're going to call 8, and we immediately hit a DMOC. That is about the worst case scenario we could have had. I was really hoping to mill a bunch of spells here because we thinned out our deck of monsters, but that's just not how it worked. We're just going to crash in with these Stratos here, and then we're just going to set some bluffs with the Machine Dupe and the E-Call, pass back to them. I think, honestly, in hindsight, this might have been a mistake, because it does turn on things like Being Swim and Blast, which they might have. And they're going to go for an MSC hitting the Dupe, which is the more unfortunate card to lose here. I sort of set both in case they had an MSC, because I wanted some uncertainty there. And also, I wanted them not to snipe Explosion once we set that. But yeah, it's kind of rough here, because they're going to go for Mally here, banish a Mally, bring on another Mally. tribute for Ryza, stack that card on top of the deck, and now we're in a very, very bad spot because we're drawing into a dead e-call. So this definitely was a misplay on my part. I probably should have just held both, and then they wouldn't have been able to do this Ryza play or Phoenix Moonblast play if they had that. But it is what it is. You live and learn, and we go for a Diamond Dude there and hit a card trooper. So actually, we could have gone for a dupe play here if we did not set the e-call and the dupe. We could have actually potentially had that online for later, but we did not do that, and so we get a bit punished here. Not that it would have really mattered against a Ryza, because we need a way to actually deal with the Ryza. But, we get 3 draws once the troopers went away, so, yeah, they might not have had Ryza out as well at this point, because they'd have to stack one of their own cards to the top of the deck. Maybe they're going to go for Brain Con, try and mill for Diamond Dude, hit a Mirror Force, so they do not get that online. But we are going to be taking a ton of damage here, 3,800 total, and that's going to be a bit bad for us. They're going to also tribute set, and then set a back row pass back to us. So we have the read that set is a Mally. Not really much else you tribute set. So we're going to summon out this other Diamond Dude, hit a D-draw, which is honestly pretty good for us. And now we'll attack in over that set there. And then main 2, we're just going to set a Brain Con as a bit of a bluff because we already have a card they can spin back if they want to. So not really much risk in setting another there. And yeah, we could have gone for Brain Con here to get a bit more aggressive with the Ryza, but then we just lose on board because they attack over the Diamond Dude with the Ryza, and that's 1,000 damage, and we'd be at 1,000 life points. They've got Reaim on board anyways, that ring, so that's going to be the end of game 1. Because game 2, we're going first, I just keep the deck as the FTK, because I'm like, well, okay, more testing for the FTK. This is sort of meant to be the FTK deck, so I'm going to see if I can FTK here, and I mean, this is an abhorrent hand. Nothing we can do with this hand. This is so bad of a hand. Yeah, and our opponent's going to go for D-draw pitch Mally, bring out another Mally, go for a trooper here. Mill 3, so no dupe, which is pretty nice. And then they've got meta to bring out a Sentry here if they want to. They are going to do that. Banish another Mally, bring out another Mally here, and this is going to be a ton of damage, 4,700 to be exact. So we're already down below half our life points here. We really need a monster or something to take control of our opponent's stuff. But it's not looking the best for us here. We do run into a trooper, so that's something at least. We're going to summon that out, and we're going to prio mill. So we're going to mill 3 spells, which honestly I'm not too upset about. And now I think it's time just to try and go for a Monster Gate plus Serial Spell play, because we don't really have many other options. So we're going to tribute that trooper, go for Serial Spell, pitch the other Serial Spell, and then run into a Stratos, which will miss timing here, because it was summoned first, and a trooper. So it's kind of rough. It's just unfortunate that turned out that way. So we mill through with trooper here to get more cards engraved. Nothing to really pre-mat out unless we wanted to go for another trooper, but I didn't really think that was worth it because none of this deals with Sentry there. So yeah, we're just going to attack into the trooper that they've got and the Mally, but they go for a card trooper here, or not card trooper, crush card here, destroying our board, and they will get to see the Monster Gate there. We do have pre-mat to bring back a monster and then go for another gate play here. So we're going to go for Stratos here. We're going to use Stratos to search out the Diamond Dude there, just to have that online for later. And they're going to think on the Stratos summon, and they are going to ring it. I think that is smart because they don't want us using the gate here to potentially do stuff. And that does indeed signal the end of our plays here. We just got 2 feathers set here. They don't really do anything, and we are just dead. We are very, very dead, and that will be the end of the game. So, this is sort of my issue with the FTK stuff. One, it's not really the most consistent thing in the world. I think there are other FTKs you can do if you want to FTK off. I do think it is a good hybrid with this deck, and Magical Explosion can be good in DDT just as another damage boost. But I think DDT is probably better served just as DDT. But also, game 1 showed that, like, starting with the FTK is maybe not the best option. I mean, yes, our opponent did draw very well, but I feel like playing the FTK stuff in the main deck in game 1 was a bit awkward for us. But this wasn't the only match that I got with this deck. We also played a couple other games, so let's see how those go now. Okay, our next game is again PJ Darkness, a frequent guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on. We're diving into the game here, and we are going second again, so that's always very unfortunate for us here, but this is a much better hand overall. So our opponent's going to set 2, pass back to us, and we're going to draw into another D-draw, which is dead, unfortunately. But if we manage to hit Stratos off Reasoning here, then we can get a Destiny Hero and go for the D-draw there. So they call 5. I think they're expecting 6 Sams because that's the last deck I featured with this Reason Gate package here. And 5 is a pretty decent call there if we hit a Grandmaster there. But we managed to hit a Diamond Dude. So Diamond Dude will be able to mill a spell. We hit a Demock, unfortunately. So that's now at the bottom of our deck. Our opponent doesn't really have to worry about us hitting that for a while. And that's going to be a bit rough for us here. We could have also summoned out Trooper first and then build with the Trooper. But if they've got like TT or something, then I don't necessarily want to lose the ability to use Diamond Dude there. So We're going to go for the trooper here, mill 3, and run into there are the spells. Okay, if only we had trooper first and then maybe Diamond Dude, but it would have been effectively the same sort of idea here. They go for Crush Card, tributing that Sangan to pop the trooper there, and they get to see our hand, but we do get a draw off that trooper, and so we're not too upset about this. They get a trooper of their own off the Sangan. We attack in for 14. And then in main 2, we go for a reading here because we want to get as many spells in the grave as possible because we do have a fair bit right now, and we've got a magical explosion in hand as well. So they do call for, so they hit the Diamond Dude. Now we have no targets left in deck for Destiny Draw, which is unfortunate. But it is how this game goes sometimes. We're going to set the D-Draw because Magic Explosion will not kill here, and I want to bait out something like an MST if they've got it. So I want to hold one of the D-Draws, though, because this way, if I do just set 2 next turn, then they won't necessarily know which to blind MST. If they do blind MST, expecting the explosion. So they are going to summon out a Stratos here, and they're going to search out a Mally here, which is not bode well for us. And they're just going to attack over the Diamond Dude. Okay, I was worried about a D-Draw, but sometimes you just don't have the D-Draw there. Our opponent's going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw into a gate, which we will show our opponent there. And now we got a pretty good option here. We can snatch the Stratos and then Monster Gate that away and try and mill more of our deck. So we're going to run into, what are we running into here? Trooper. Trooper's pretty good to hit out here because then we get to mill 3 more. We're going to mill those 3. And now we have a total of 25 spells and graves. This actually will be almost not quite exactly lethal, but it is just over the threshold that we need. So we go into main 2, set the D-Draw and the explosion, pass back to them, and then we flip up the explosion here. As you can see, we only have 7 non-spells engraved. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And everything else is a spell. We got 32 cards engraved. So that means 25 cards total engraved. 25 spells, that is, engraved. And that'll be 5,000 damage total. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty good there. And, it will be the end of the game. So we're going into game 2. We do the smoke screen side. I basically side out of the FTK stuff mainly. And I bring in my entire side deck except for Mechanical Hound and Dimfuse. I think those are kind of the worst cards in the side deck. I feel like they're the most situational. So the cards that I side out, if I'm remembering them all correctly, is Triple Feather the Phoenix, Triple Magical Explosion. I side out of the Double Zero spell as well, so that's 8 cards total right now. I side out of 1 Diamond Dude and 1 Machine Duplication, so that's 10 cards total right now. I believe I side out of Magical Stone as well, so that's 11. And what are the last 4? I'm not quite remembering what the last 4 are. Oh, I side out of the E-Calls as well, so that's 3 more. And I forget what the last one was, but basically I take out all the things that I think are a bit too specific to an FTK, and I try and bring in like just better stuff overall. So, oh wait, we only sided in 13 cards, so yeah, that is the total 13. Actually, I think I didn't side out of Magical Stone, so yeah, that is 13 cards total, and that's what we did. So yeah, our opponent's going to open with the T-set pass, which is a bit unfortunate. We would have liked to have brain conned their monster, then monster gated away. That would have been nice. But as is, we can just set a Phoenix Blade here and pass back. I could have also saved that as discard fodder for Vortex. That might have been the better option, but I think it's ultimately fine. The reason why we still have the Phoenix Blades in the deck, despite not playing the Explosions or the Dim Fuses, is because I think they're good discard fodder, and we kind of want that discard fodder for things like Magical Stone and Vortex. But you could definitely also not play a version not bring those in, especially if we're not going for the Dim Fuses here. Everyone's going to bring out Trooper, flip up another Trooper, and then try and attack in for 3,800. But first, they're going to Phoenix Wind Blast our set. Hey, I'm happy with that because this is kind of perfect for us. We wouldn't necessarily want them to Wind Blast the Trooper that we take control of with BrainCon before we gate it away. So, yeah, it's working out pretty well for us here. So they're going to attack in for 3,800, and they're just going to pass back to us. We draw into that Phoenix Blade that we knew about, but now we're in a very good spot because we've also got Machine Dupe, so we can take control of a Trooper here. Go for... Oh, I don't know why I didn't... Yeah, this was a misplay on my part. I should have gone Machine Dupe to bring out 2 more Troopers and then gone for Gate. So, I guess I didn't see that line at the time. It was very unfortunate for us here. But, you know, we do hit into another Trooper, so ultimately it didn't matter that much. But I think in hindsight, I should have just gone Machine Dupe, brought out 2 more Troopers, and then gated away the first Trooper there. But I didn't do that, and I get a bit punished for it. Or not punished for it, because I do think that... Actually, I win this turn, so I don't get punished for it. But I could have easily gotten punished for it if my mills were not as good. So I mill off 1 Trooper first, and in general, it's something good to do if you have multiple Troopers up. I think it is better just to do the mills on 1, see what you get, and then if nothing relevant popped up, then you do the mills on the next and the next, etc. But we milled into a Mally, so we are going to use that Mally effect right now to bring in another Mally from deck and just, you know, make it so that we don't like mill extraneous Malleys. We're going to tribute over that Malley for a dasher, and then we're going to break out another Malley. We mill 6, and this is indeed lethal damage. We don't even need to Vortex here because this is just well over lethal. 1900 times 3 is going to be 5700 plus 2100 plus 800. We could even buff it up with Phoenix Blade as well to get in a bit of extra damage. So, yeah, that is the end of the game there. Very explosive final turn here from the DDT deck, and this is why I think you don't need the explosion stuff necessarily in the main. You can have it in the side as a bit more consistency booster for winning going first when you lose game 1 or something, or you potentially lose game 2. But I do think that it is good enough on its own just to play main like this. You know, I don't think our opponent's really siding out much that will stop this going into the second match or something. But that's my take on this deck. This is the last match that we got with it, though, so let's dive into one more now. Okay, we got our last game here against KC2000, who I believe is a new guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have someone new on, and I hope that they stick around for more in the future. But we're going to dive into the games here, and I will be honest, I do misplay this one quite a bit, because right now it's reaching the end of my normal night. I played these a bit late, so yeah, I do suffer from a bit of the exhaustion brain fog there a bit. But I go for a gate here after setting Explosion because I'm going to then Zero Spell away everything else in my hand. This is because I think I could definitely potentially hit enough spells to deal a ton of damage here. And also the two things that would miss timing, Stratos and Demok, are already in my hand. I don't really feel like I need the Brain Con because I'm trying to win as soon as possible. So I'll also pitch that, and it's another spell engraved for the Explosion. But we're going to hit a Trooper, which I'm perfectly happy with. And then we're going to hit a Diamond Dude, which I'm also pretty happy with. So we are going to mill for Diamond Dude first, hitting a gate. I mean, we're very happy about that. And then we'll mill 3 off that Trooper, milling another Trooper as well. So we're going to pass back to our opponent here. And we have gate online next turn if we want to use it. Opponent's going to go for Snatch on the Trooper, mill 3 of their own. And we see that they're on a Warrior deck, a very interesting one. Probably playing Gear Freed as well if they're playing Smoke Grenade and Blast with Chain. So very, very cool stuff. I feel like people have not really tested out this strategy in a bit, because it's been used in prior formats, but in general formats have gotten a bit quicker than the formats that supported this strategy, but it's still very, very cool to see them playing this strategy here, especially if you use Mind Crush and things like Crush Card to really get a peek at that hand and rip it apart. Luckily for us, we draw into another Magical Explosion, so that is really good, especially off of Monster Gate. Right now, 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, let's count the non-spells. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 non-spells in graveyard out of a 23-card graveyard. So right now we have 3,600 times 2 damage, so 7,200 total. So I can actually win this turn if the gate mills enough spells, and it will indeed mill. Well, it mills into a Trooper, which will then get us enough spells for sure. So, yeah, right now, again, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 non-spells in grave. So we got 25 spells in grave. It's 5,000 off 1 Magical Explosion, 10,000 off 2. So I just win the game here. But, you know, 1, I misplay here because I should have attacked and Trooper deal a little bit more damage because we're trying to set up for the lethal line. But 2, I also miscalculate. And I'm like, oh, I don't have lethal here. I just have 5,000 damage because I'm not remembering that it inflicts 200 damage for to your graveyard for each spell. So this is why, you know, it's always good to get a full, you know, amount of rest before playing Yu-Gi-Oh! But I do mess that up. We do ultimately still win this game because I realized my mistake pretty soon after. But yeah, we sort of just let our opponent sweat for a bit, I guess. And it's just unfortunate. I generally do not like dragging out games too long. And unfortunately, I forced my opponent to go through this. And it could have actually backfired for us if that set is Royal Decree, which some anti-meta warrior decks do play Decree in the main. So we could have actually lost the game here if we had messed up. But we go for a Feather here, and we'll stick back on top of Trooper. Doesn't really matter here because we do indeed have lethal. So we go for Explosion, see if they've got a Decree. It looks like they do not. So we'll go for another Explosion, and that will be the end of the game there. So, yeah, I mean, it's like, again, we could have ended that game a lot earlier, but I did not see that line. And yeah, I mean, it's always good to, you know, focus when you play. And we do the same side decking plan that I did in the last game here. So not much to talk about there. They go for Stratos forward this commander here, and then they're going to set 2, pass back to us. We draw into a Rhoda here, but we've already got, you know, 2 of our Rhoda targets. And I mean, we do have the, like, Malleys in the, you know, Dasher in deck as well, so we could do that instead. But It's a bit awkward to go for... Oh, wait, actually, I sided out a Diamond Dude, so we don't have any other roted targets. So actually, Roto's dead. Never mind. Forgot that I sided that out. So, yeah, it does put us in a bit of a weird spot. We go for Snatch here because we're trying to Monster Gate away that Stratos there. We're going to MST that, and then instead of going for the Stratos here to grab a Dasher or a Mally, I actually go for the Trooper. I want to clear that Stratos, and if they do have a way to deal with the Trooper, then I get to draw a card. So I don't necessarily think we need to go for the Stratos or for Monster Gate plays here either. And I'm just going to attack in to that Stratos and pass back to them. So actually, I'm going to sell a Rhoda as well because it's a bluff. So maybe that comes up, maybe it doesn't. But, you know, if they MST it, I'm perfectly fine with that because, again, it's a bluff. They can't MST because they've used up this, but let's say they've got Dust Tornado or something, right? They got something to deal with that back row. It won't actually end up mattering here. They go for Dust Shoot here, and they're actually going to spin back a Diamond Dude, and this actually works out very well because we could actually Rhoda that back. So, interesting that they send back the Diamond Dude instead of the Stratos. It might tell us a bit of what they have. They could have like a pulling the rug to stop these Stratos here. They could have even a Solemn potentially, and they're trying to set up that, but it is very interesting. It makes me not want to commit the Stratos here. I'm going to start by milling 3 with the Trooper just in case we draw, or not draw, but mill into a Mally here to then get free Monster Gate fodder there. But because we didn't do that, I'm actually just going to bring in a Diamond Dude and go for its mill effect. We hit a Trooper there, which is a bit unfortunate. I just go for a Gate here. There are some bad hits in the deck if I hit them, and I did indeed hit one. Mally is the worst thing that we can get here. But I do think it is still worth going for another Monster Gate. 1, this gets Mally engraved. 2, banish to bring in another Mally. And 2, we've got more live targets than we don't. So I think this should hopefully be good, but we hit the other Mally. That's about as bad as it could have gotten. But, you know, we still get to banish this Mally, bring out the last Mally from deck, and now we've got 1 more Stratos target left in deck, being the Dasher. If we draw into the Dasher, we can still use the Stratos to pop our opponent's spell traps, or we could just not use the effect at all because we might have to read that that's pulling the rug. But we're going to attack in for 1,600 total here, and then pass back to our opponent. They are going to bring out a Fearmonger here, which is going to be a bit awkward for us because we don't want to attack into that. Because we attack into that, then they bring back the Disc Commander, and then that's very bad for us here. So they're going to attack into the Trooper. We get to draw a card off that, and then they're going to go for a Comfy now and rip apart that Reasoning. So again, I feel like there probably is a way for them to deal with the Stratos here. But we draw Demock, so that's very, very good. The awkward thing here is if we summon Demock into pulling, that's very bad for us because we lose the Demock there. But it also does open the way for Stratos to use its effect on the following turn. So I'm not too upset about that. And if we just summon out Stratos and they get pulling for that, then we lose a Mally and we can't bring out the Demock at all. So I think it is very good to go for Demock here. Also, if they don't have the pulling, then we're feeling pretty good about that. But they do indeed have the pulling. So that will deal with the Demock there. But Demock would have been very good for this situation, banishing the Fearmonger to prevent the Disc Commander from coming back. But as is, we can't really do that. They're going to attack in for 1,000 here, and we're going to take it. They're going to pass back to us, and we draw into a Trooper, which is pretty decent here. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go for, I think about this a lot because the Fearmonger is very annoying if we attack over it. So I'm going to try not attacking over it. I'm just going to bring out a Stratos, search out a Dasher. If they attack into the Stratos with the Fearmonger itself, then I feel like we can get aggressive here, something at the Trooper dealing a ton of damage, and I'm ultimately okay with that. But I really don't want them to get back that Disc Commander, draw 2 cards, and potentially, you know, really put the screws on us. So they're going to tribute over that Disc Commander, or the Fearmonger that is, for a Jinzo, and then attack over the Stratos here, which is a bit unfortunate for us. We don't really have a good way to deal with Jinzo in hand right now, so we just got to top deck into something good, and that is something good. We're going to bring out a Trooper here, mill 3 just to see what we mill, and then we're going to go for a Vortex here to pop that Jinzo, attack in for 1,900 total. We're going to pass back to them, and they got Snatch Heal for the Trooper. She's going to be a bit unfortunate because they get to attack him for 1,900. We do gain 1,000 next turn, though, so that's pretty good for us. And we draw into the Jinzo, which we are going to special summon out with the Dasher effect there, because it is draw phase, and that is very good for us because we get to clear the Trooper, deal them 2,000, and we don't get to draw a card off that because we don't control the Trooper, but it's still very good. Now, they do have some ways to, kill us here, Brain Con or Snatch or something like that could be really bad, given that we got this Jinzo, but they don't have Snatch anymore, so I guess it's just really Brain Con. If they've got a way to remove the Jinzo through other means, like Exiled Force or something, which they might be playing since they're a Warrior deck, then that's pretty bad for us, but unfortunately, they do not have that. They just have a Meta, a True Nade, a Heavy Storm, and a Blast with Chain. So all that will not quite work against the Jinzo, and this is lethal on board. So that was a nail biter. This was a very, very close second game. Very intense game as well. We managed to get some very good top decks there, but definitely showed that DDT can be a very flexible deck if it is allowed to be there. I guess earlier for the Vortex, we also could have grabbed back a Phoenix Blade, pitched that for Vortex, but I think it was better pitching the Dasher, because if you think about what's left in our deck, Jinzo is a card left in our deck, and we're running low on cards, so I want the Dasher engraved there for if we draw the Jinzo, rather than just preserving the Dasher to basically do nothing in hand. That's my reason for that. Anyways, these were some fun games. Again, I sort of have listed my complaints with the deck. I do think that it should not be on the FTK in game 1, and maybe you don't even play the FTK. I think the deck is probably flexible enough without the FTK elements. You can still play Magical Explosion if you want, because it can deal a bit of burn damage that could be very unexpected for your opponent to deal with. But I think overall, making a pure FTK when going first is a bit awkward, and not quite pure, I guess, because it's not completely consistent there. But doing these sort of like hybrid FTK isn't really that good either. In general, I think when doing FTK shenanigans, you want to potentially put that in for game 2 or game 3 if you lose them and know you're going first. But that is my opinion on this style of deck. What do you think about this style of deck? Let me know in the comments below. And also, if you like the video, give it a like. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to the channel. I got more Trooper games coming on the way, as well as a lot of other good retro Yu-Gi-Oh content. So stay tuned if you want more of that. As always, big shout outs to my patrons: Rinswin, Pork Tribe Coon, Bren Docker, Tyler Compton, GeoMyFS, Dump Truck, and Scout Zero. It means a lot that you guys support me this way and encourage me to make more videos like this on the channel. If you want to join the upcoming Trooper tournament that we're holding on the YGO from Zero Discord server, head on over to that Discord in the description down below. And I hope you enjoyed the video as always. Until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.